A few months ago, we dropped the full review of the Harley Davidson Fat Boy. We went over the specs, the lean angles, and the geometry, and all the specs. Today, let's talk about the actual psychology here. Why do riders pass up practical options, look past the spec sheets, and buy this exact machine? And specifically, let's look at the latest model. Harley did something big here. They finally gave this chassis the standard heart transplant it deserved, dropping in the Milwaukee 8117. Let's face it, nobody buys a Fat Boy out of cold logic. It's heavy, it fights you a bit in tight corners, maybe more than a bit, and crosswinds love to grab that massive profile, yet it remains incredibly desirable. It has a physical gravity to it that you notice the second you see it on the road. If testosterone were a bike, it would be the Fat Boy. Now let's find out why you should own one in 2026. Let's do work. Guys, in this video, I am wearing Saint motorcycle jeans, who also gave me a discount code for you guys. These jeans are stylish, comfortable enough to wear. I've actually worn these at work, even in the office, and they are 200 times stronger than steel. My discount code is in the description below, and the full review is at the end of this video. I highly recommend these. Check them out. When you're in the saddle, the view over the tank is unique. You look down at a 160mm front tire wrapped in massive chrome forks that look like a massive bodybuilder flexing. That front tire is wider than the rear tire on plenty of mid-sized cruisers, and then you look back and see that iconic 240mm rear tire. That choice changes everything about how this bike carries itself. It looks ready to flatten the road. It's a steamroller. Riders want that heavy industrial presence. When you're riding this, you feel totally planted. It has an architectural solidarity to it. It tells the world that you aren't in a hurry and you're not moving out of anyone's way. And you can't talk about the look without hitting the wheels. Those solid disc aluminum Lakester rims divide opinions like crazy in the cruiser world, which is exactly why people love them. Spokes look classic, but solid discs look brutal. On the move, they reflect the world passing by like massive chunks of polished steel. It gives the bike incredible visual weight. Even sitting on its kickstand in a crowded parking lot, it looks heavier and more permanent than anything parked next to it. Big shout out to my friends at Harley Davidson of Danbury in Connecticut who lent me their Fat Boy to experience. Their contact information is below. They are the best Harley Davidson dealer and service center in America. Go spend some time with them and you will be convinced. By the way, if you go and buy a bike from them, mention Ducati Diaries sent you, and Lucchino, the owner, will take care of you and give you a free $200 service voucher as well as a t-shirt of your choosing. And that brings us to the engine upgrade. Upgrading to the 117 means you get 1923 cc's of displacement, pumping out 126 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers don't get any more masculine. Those numbers don't get any more brag-worthy. Almost 2,000 cc's of displacement and 126 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers bear repeating. And the best part is where you get that power. You reach that peak torque at just 3,000 RPM. Think about how that feels on the road. You aren't revving this thing out to make it move. You just twitch your hand a little bit and you're gonna go all SpaceX. You crack that throttle in any gear, the airflow optimized intake gulps down air, and the bike just hooks up and launches forward with zero hesitation. The power delivery feels massive and effortless. As a Ducati Diavel V4 owner, I can tell you that cracking the throttle on the Diavel is gonna crack your back in half. But that bike is relatively light. The 2026 Fat Boy is almost 700 pounds. So when you crack the throttle, it's not uncomfortably abrupt. It's more like a Shinkansen, the Japanese bullet train. And I know that as I've been on the Shinkansen. A little bit of trivia here. Your boy used to live in Japan for 7 years. Anyway, a lot of modern bikes try to completely isolate you from the mechanical experience with digital smoothness. The 2026 Fat Boy gives you a heavy, tactile surge of forward momentum that makes you feel connected straight to the asphalt. Now let's talk about how this brute actually handles, because that 240mm rear tire changes the entire riding dynamic. On a standard bike, you think about a turn and the bike drops in. On a Fat Boy, you have to be deliberate. You have to work. You have to put in some elbow grease. You give the bars a firm shove. You use some counter steering and you command it through the arc, just like the days of yesteryear. Once you get used to that resistance, it becomes part of the fun. You are physically managing a 694-pound machine, and there's a real sense of accomplishment in tracking a clean line through a sweeping corner. For 2026, Harley also integrated selectable ride modes, as well as cornering safety enhancements, including traction control and cornering ABS. These updates give you a safety net on slick roads, but they don't dull the physical, muscular effort required to hustle this thing through the twists. The ergonomics play a huge role in why people gravitate towards this bike for long-distance cruising. The seat sits incredibly low, right around 25.9 inches. You sit down into the motorcycle rather than on top of it, which instantly gives you a confidence-inspiring, feet-flat stance at every single stoplight. Out on the open highway, you kick your boots out onto those broad, vibration-isolated floorboards, reach out to the wide bars, and just settle in. And here's what that feels like. Just serenity. A man's kind of serenity. Loud pipes, vibrations, high wind in your face. The long 65-inch wheelbase swallows up highway expansion joints beautifully. It offers an upright, commanding riding position that feels completely relaxed. You can watch the miles roll by for hours without the fatigue you get from cramped foot pegs or aggressive seating positions. And then you have the Acoustic signature. Let's be real, the exhaust note drives half of these sales, maybe 90%. The 117 exhales through a staggered 2-into-2 dual pipe setup that acts like an amplifier for those massive combustion cycles. You feel that deep bass vibrating right through the floorboards and into your chest, and it feels wonderful. At a stoplight, you get that uneven mechanical lope that sounds alive. When you roll on the throttle under an overpass or out on the highway, it emits a deep rumble that parallel twins or inline fours just can't mimic. That sound defined the American highway, and people want to own a piece of it. And the final piece is the legacy. Nostalgia carries a ton of weight. For a lot of us, the obsession started in 1991 watching Arnold Schwarzenegger tear through a drainage ditch on a silver Fat Boy. You want to buy a piece of American myth when you pick one up. It stands as a universal symbol of a heavy mechanical cruiser, and everyone recognizes the silhouette the second it rolls up. So why should you want a Fat Boy? It makes zero compromises for modern trends. It has no interest in being a nimble track weapon or a tech-heavy tourer. It's a bold, heavy hammer of a motorcycle. It looks mean, sounds incredible, and makes you feel completely unshakable every time you lift the kickstand. You're gonna get nothing but respect on this bike. Everyone's gonna recognize it, but if you want to blend into the background, buy something else. If you want a machine that makes a statement before you even shut it off or even start it, that's why you buy a Fat Boy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is the 2025-2026 update with the 117 engine exactly what this bike needed, or do you prefer the older generations? Drop your thoughts, hit subscribe, and always remember the motto, bark less, wag more, and always be kinder than necessary. I'll see you in the next one.